So I'm with Sarah Yagki. Did I say your name right?
Yeah, Yagki.
Okay,
It's a weird one.
Yeah, I'm like Yaki or Yagi.
The K is silent.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, very much a Lebanese heritage story behind that one. But yeah, so K is silent.
Love it. And welcome to the Making Music in Bed series. I'm so excited to finally have you on.
Thank you, and thank you for having me on as well. We had some COVID delays, but it's good to be here.
Yeah, I'm just so glad because I feel like I've gotten to know you, through COVID, finding you on Instagram. Finding everyone on Instagram has been amazing, and you did a bedroom gig for Seamont's Productions, and that was so exciting. When you reached out, were you kind of like, what were you expecting?
I guess I wasn't having an expectation. It was more that sense of I wanted to connect, and especially seeing what you were doing and seeing you be so involved with supporting other people. I wanted to be able to support you back and see what I can do to contribute to not just what was happening with COVID, but a community that hopefully we could take on after COVID, which we have been doing and you've been doing amazingly. So that's sort of what I went into it going. And I'm very much, not just with music, but even to friends and family, I'll always be that person that goes, I'm just going to do it, and whatever happens, happens, and just be as authentic as I can be. And that's sort of what I went in there trying to do. Just being like, hello, I'm Sarah. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, no, it is very exciting to meet people like you and artists like you who are so willing to kind of just reach out to people and get involved in whatever you can, because obviously that excites me as someone who wants to be part of the community, but for you as an artist to kind of be proactive like that is really exciting. And I see, especially with you really go and find amazing photographers on Instagram. And you give them a platform as well to share their art. Do you find that that's really important for you as an artist to collaborate with people and work with people in the creative realm?
It is really important, and a really good example is a photographer that I've used for the last couple of years, Jesse. So I actually met him from, I think it was Universal. He was my cashier. I was buying some clothes. We got chatting while we were buying it, and he said that he was a photographer. Mind you, I thought he was maybe mid-20s, early 20s. I was like, yeah, let's see what you've got. Checked out his Instagram, and it was incredible. Then I find out that he's only 18, 19, and I felt even more passionate about that. I was like, I want to show you how good I think you are. And I think that's a really good example of why I do want to give back. I constantly want to work with people who are growing as well, and I feel like being able to see the potential in someone is something that I want, and I still did need when I was getting into this, and I'm constantly grateful for. So if I can be on someone else's journey and they be on my journey, that's something that I do really find so special. So that's why I am really big on collaboration and that authenticity that comes with meeting someone and being able to connect on a way that only music and creativity lets you.
And I definitely see that with your band as well. And the times that I've seen you perform live, and even the bedroom gig with you and Ethan, I can see how much you care about the people around you when it comes to performing, especially.
Yeah.
How much time do you feel like you spend really thinking about how to make your band a really cohesive space? Because I think when you're the lead singer, sometimes it's very easy to just focus on yourself and kind of just get lost in the fact that you're the one that people are, quote unquote, coming to see. And so people can sometimes, I think, neglect the people that are supporting them.
Yeah.
How do you maintain that kind of stability between focusing on yourself as a single artist, but also I need to reassure my band members that I'm here for them and I want this to be a cohesive sound? How do you maintain that?
I think it starts from the way that I introduce songs. So when we learn a new song, we learn a new set, I go, this is what I've done, have a listen to it. And I also, from the start, I encourage, what are your thoughts? What do you think of this? And all of us, there's this really great trust with each other where I feel like when we are talking, no one's putting each other's ideas down and no one's not listening to each other. Everyone's finding really good ways to, excuse me, to be able to encourage that creativity. And because we have been able to think of different ways to approach the songs that I've put forward, it automatically creates a really nice connection with the band. And I couldn't be more grateful for the guys that I have on stage as well. And all of us do things outside of the band. We have a show coming up and I'm going to make sure that we go out for lunch for it. We're going to chat. We're going to have that interactive sense of being a band. And although I am the artist, I'm the lead singer, and as a solo artist, I say this to my band all the time. I never want it to feel like I'm the only one on stage. I want it to be really collaborative, where other people are watching and going, how cool was that? How cool is that guitar solo? How sick is that bass line? And everyone in my band is so talented, so I want to bring that out as much as I can. And I wouldn't be where I am without them because of that. Even though I'm writing the music, even though I'm doing stuff like that, they are so important to me. So I couldn't be more grateful for that. I hope that answers the question. I went on a bit of a tangent.
No, I mean, even what you said about like making sure that the day that you go out and perform, it's like you have lunch together, you spend time not just in the kind of musical context, because I think sometimes you have to find that balance of like, yes, you work together, but you also need to maintain those friendships and those relationships beyond just the music, because I think sometimes that breakdown of a band especially can happen when that friendship isn't there and it's not being maintained enough, because it's like people feel neglected or they don't feel like they have a voice in the creative work or whatever. Has there ever been moments where you feel like you've had to kind of rethink yourself, like, am I neglecting my band? Do I need to like restructure the way that we do like practice? Or, you know, has there been moments like that at all?
I think it's not so much moments of where it's been like heavily that, but more feeling more confident in myself to come into band rehearsals feeling confident. And I think that was a really hard thing for me. It was a really hard thing as a vocalist to direct instrumentalists, because I went to AIM and there was this mindset of the singers just sing. And I needed to find a balance of not just being able to put my music forward, but not neglecting what they have to say, but also not neglecting what I have to say as well. And I think that's sort of to and fro of what I was neglecting. And how I got over that was starting to plan out my rehearsals, sending in the band chat a message of what we're doing for rehearsals, set up. They all know it. I love my Google Drive. So I have everything out, and it's my way of trying to be as clear as I can of communication. And there's going to be things that all of us neglect out of human nature, but I'm trying to put my best foot forward so I can go, this is everything that I know, but I don't know everything. So tell me what you think. And the band's really great. There was a period where I was just so busy, and my charts that I was writing for the band there was things that were incorrect, and I was like, oh no, I need to get this together. But a bunch of them stepped up and was like, let's actually just do this together. Let's write these out together. Let's do this. And that's something that's really good. Everyone really knows when to step up when they need to. And when I go into band, I definitely do have more confidence to be like, I know what I'm doing. These are my songs. Not that I didn't know what I was doing, but I was more neglecting what I thought I could do in front of other people. Yeah. If that makes sense.
No, for sure. And I think it really shows that you can step into that kind of more leadership position while also allowing yourself to lean on them as a support system, because it's like there are going to be times where you're really busy and stressed out and don't have time to like prepare and do all those.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's nice to see that you can kind of reflect on that of like coming from AIM and like being able to like be more of a leader and not just kind of, because it is easy, I think, to become a really passive person when you're the lead singer, because it's like, well, I just turn up and sing. So
exactly.
You do the hard work, I just turn up and sing.
And sometimes when I've wrote songs, there's times where I clearly know what I want. I go, yep, I want it to feel like this, I want the vibe to be this. But there's other times where I go in there, I've wrote the song, I've wrote the music, I've wrote the charts, and I go, I have no idea if this should be an upbeat dance along track or I'm about to cry in my car track. And the band really helps communicate, and that sort of collaboration helps me also really understand what I want as well.
Yeah. So going back in time, before the band, before this life, what got you into music? Why do you love music? Why do you do it?
I think it was because when I was growing up, especially being in environments where I was trying to take care of my family, as we grew up in that sort of like a lot of housing commission, Centrelink, we grew up out west quite a lot. I sometimes felt like I always had to be that leader. And when I was listening to music, it was a way for me to feel like I had someone else there. I had someone else to talk to. I had someone else to help me figure out what I was feeling. And this was maybe 8 or 9-year-old Sarah just listening. And there's this artist called Eden, and I absolutely fell in love with his music. And I decided to do music because, in all honesty, I felt like what I was feeling, what I was going through in those early years, I wanted them to feel like they had purpose. And it was a way for me to comfort myself that they had purpose. And that's why I started writing. I started writing music. Apparently I was singing for a while. I had a family thing the other week, and my auntie was telling me how there's this video of me 3 or 4 singing. So that was very cute. I was like, oh, hope that never comes out, but yes, that exists. And
don't doubt your 3-year-old's talent.
I know. And I found lyrics when I was 9, actually. I found that the other day. And I think that's what I needed. I needed to feel like I could find a way to communicate what I was feeling, because I was in an environment where I felt like I constantly had to be strong or constantly had to step up. And once I got to the point where I was getting good at communicating what I was feeling, it became that spot for me where I wanted to be able to do that for other people and find ways that they could connect to how they're feeling as well. And I guess that with music, it's no matter what's changed, no matter what's been up or down through childhood, through teenage years, through young adulthood, it's always been the thing that's been consistent and stood by me and by my own identity and everything that centers who I am. And that's why I guess it's really important for me to do it, and why I feel like it is something that I am here to do.
Yeah. I always say, like, I always find it so interesting to talk to artists, because I do feel like the way that you describe it, it's as if it is like a part of you, like in a really physical sense, and to not have it be part of you would feel kind of like a hole in your world. Like it just doesn't feel right to let that part of you go. And so was there ever a point where you were ever, discouraged to ever do music, or was it very much like the moment that you realized, oh, I can't do life without music, like this is what I'm doing? Was it kind of like non-stop from there, or was there a moment of kind of like, oh, maybe it's not realistic? Or
it was more, I was in an environment where I wanted to do music, and it wasn't something that was easy for me to get to. And I feel like I tried really hard to do it, but also had limitations of what was around me. And for example, my singing school that I'm still at, Platinum Vocal Studio, I started there when I was 14 purely because I could work when I was 14. So I was able to earn money, I was able to do that, and it was really hard being that young and trying to support what I wanted to do along with other things that were happening. But there were little moments that kind of got me through. There was one moment where every week before I went to my singing lessons, I would give $10 to this music shop that was just underneath it that I think is still there. And I don't know how long I saved up for that, but I saved up for it, and I remember them just giving me a stand for free, giving me music books for free, giving me all this other stuff because they just saw me coming in. And it was that little moment where I was like, okay, this is what I can do, this is what I'm meant to be doing. And then it was like year 6, I remember I very, very horribly performed a song on stage and I wasn't confident with it. And then I had a parent come up to me and say, you did a great job, don't stop doing what you're doing. And it was those little moments that I grabbed onto. So even when I felt like I couldn't do it because of things that I couldn't control, I grabbed onto anything that I could that gave me that sense of, yes, this is right. And it was those moments that made me feel like that.
Yeah. And it is really one of those things where you weren't given that privilege of just having things there to play with and to do music and to just pursue it because you have that accessibility in your life. Like, you were not given that privilege, but I think that is beautiful that, you know, you were able to, like, put money away and that people even just recognized that you wanted something and you weren't doing anything to, like, say that you just deserved it because you deserved it. It was like people could just see that you were working for it and just love doing it. And I think that that is such, like, an amazing quality to have as an artist, because I think a lot of artists do sometimes not have that form of accessibility, because it's like equipment, when you think about it, even to someone who does make money, it's a lot of money.
It is. And I feel like especially there's a lot of focus right now, which is awesome, and on a lot of Western Sydney artists and things like that. But like I was born in Toongabbie. I grew up around Villawood and Bankstown, and you don't get a lot of spaces that encourage music, especially when I was growing up. And I think that something that I was really passionate about, I got a scholarship from Youth Off the Streets, which helps a lot of like disadvantaged youth and things like that. And I remember meeting all these people that had big dreams, whether it was music or business or anything that they wanted, and they got, myself included, got the opportunity to get a scholarship to help us pay for that. But we only represented a small percentage of people who I'm sure in New South Wales and further want to be doing things but are also limited by their own situation. I think that I'm massive on, as long as you can really see it in your head and you want it enough, you can do it. But I think that there is such a disadvantage with some people being able to do music and do singing and do whatever they want to do because of things that they can't control. And I think doing music, I wanted to prove that not just to myself, but to people that I have met along the way, that you're only limited by the limitations that you put on yourself, and anything can be really achieved from that. And I do it for that. I do it for myself. And I also have really little siblings that are growing up in a similar environment to me. So it's also me being able to show them that you're not just limited to this. You can do more. And I guess that's such a really big thing for me as well, to be able to showcase with my music, and something that I feel like I want to also explore being in pop music, especially, where a lot of what I write, it's multifaceted with meaning and layers, and I think that it's something, especially coming into new music, I want to focus on a lot more. But I've had to let myself kind of ease into that and talk about it and really let that naturally show than being straight out and going, this is about this or this is about this. I wanted that feeling to naturally come. And yeah.
Sometimes I think that writing music is like kind of, you're forming a relationship with your audience, your listeners, and you don't, you know, when you meet a new person that you maybe fancy, you shouldn't be like delve into all your shit and all your baggage and be like, oh, and then this really bad thing happened to me in my life and this ex did this to me. It's like you don't want to unload with your vulnerabilities. I think sometimes that can actually have the reverse effect on an audience, I think. And I even noticed this in live performances. I think sometimes a mistake that artists make is they kind of unload their vulnerabilities right off the gate.
Yeah.
And I think that actually can put the audience at kind of unease, because you don't know how to respond if you've only ever seen this person live like once in your life.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think, you know, it's already obvious that you have that level of self-awareness from what you've just said about not rushing into being really vulnerable in kind of like an overly transparent way, because obviously your music is already touching on some darker themes, I would say, but you're doing it in a way that's still on the verge of like, it's metaphorical, but you know, you could take it literally.
Yeah.
But you're not shoving it down people's throats to make them feel kind of like, oh, this is a lot to like process from an artist. And I think even when you're on stage performing live, like, I think, yes, the songs that you sing can be quite intense, but you do offer a lot of lightness in the way that you perform by connecting with the audience and smiling and dancing. I think having that balance is like super important, like massively, especially since it's like, you know, you're just starting out as an independent artist and you're growing this audience and you're growing those listeners. It's like you don't want to come in too fast with the
exactly, yeah.
This is my life. Like
yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So in terms of your music, you've just come out with a recent single, Wanted More. Can you tell me a bit about it?
So Wanted More I wrote about 3 years ago actually.
Oh, wow.
And it was one of the first songs I wrote when I was studying, and I think it took me a while to release because I also wanted to rediscover the song for myself. And Wanted More is a song that goes into fears when entering a new relationship, not just from being with a new partner, but also being in that space with yourself. And there's a lyric that's in the chorus where you've got the I wanted more, but I stopped because I fell for too soon. You don't want to fall too soon. I'm not conditioned into loving you because I feel like you should be broken too. There's this understanding of I'm scared of what this relationship will be, but I'm also scared of what I will be in the relationship. And I think having those two sides are really important, and that's why it took me a while to write the last finishing bit of Wanted More, because there was a side of me being unsure in the relationship, but it took me a couple of years to go, and also who I'd be in the relationship too. And that's the story behind Wanted More.
Yeah. So. It's interesting that you say you wrote that 3 years ago, because it doesn't feel like a song that you wrote 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, especially because I'm pretty sure you've performed it live before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, when I hear it, it just like, it always sounds really fresh, and like, it doesn't sound tired at all. So it always weirds me out when artists tell me like, oh yeah, I wrote that like 7 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Like, it doesn't feel aged. And I think with music, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but like, I don't like when I listen to a song and it sounds like it's like an old bottle of wine. Like, I actually don't know if music, not in the context of like, obviously, like, yes, we love listening to like retro music, but it's because it was released during that time that it makes sense. But I think for me, sometimes when I feel like you as an artist know this, like, you'll write songs, you'll do demos of songs, and you're like, this will never see the light of day. Yeah. Because it's tired and it's just not, it's not gonna work. Are you someone who like has hundreds of like demos, unreleased music, written songs that you're like, these will never come out ever?
I do, and you're in my studio space that has books on books on books hidden. There's a book that I'm looking at right now on the bottom floor, which is full of lyrics, and there's ones that I'm looking at behind you that have more lyrics, and I hold on to every word because I feel like I also, when I write music, even though maybe one demo won't be the best, it'll lead me to another one, and something will stand out. And I think that's something that I'm really proud of myself for getting into, because Wanted More was a big one for me to decide when was it appropriate, not just through my artist journey, but through myself, to be able to represent that side of me. And it just felt really right. But there's a song that I've recently just gotten mastered, and it's so personal. It's so personal, and the producer that I worked with for it did an incredible job on it. But there's also that one now where I'm like, okay, when do I drop that one? Yeah. Is it right for that? And that's something that happens not just for the writing stage, but for when songs are finished as well. I think that one will see the light of day one day, but it's definitely even more vulnerable than the last. So it's sort of like holding on to that until it's ready to go. Yeah, here you go.
It's so interesting, like, to think that it's like, when do you find that right time? Like, is it like you wake up one day and you're like, okay, I must release this song in like 3 weeks or I've missed the train. Literally, you can hear the trains.
On cue. I think that it's not that, for me at least, it's not a waking up and going, this is the time. A lot of it for me comes from a performance perspective. I can talk. The performance perspective where Wanted More, for example, every time I played that felt right. The band even said that felt right, and that sort of gave me the spot where I was like, yeah, this does feel right. Let's get this out here. The one that I was mentioning before, that one feels right when I play it, and I'm actually playing it at my next show coming up this week, but it doesn't feel right to release just yet. So I think a lot of it for me comes from a performance perspective.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So do you feel like you can feel like, oh, this feels right to perform but not right to release?
Definitely. I definitely
Why do you think that?
I think it's because when you produce a song and when you get it ready, there's a lot more, I guess, it's a lot more intimidating to yourself, and a lot more, I've got to really flesh this out. While with live, you can get this beautiful energy that comes with it, and I think there's a difference with it because sometimes you're not ready to break down a song into pieces, because for me especially, every song means something to me, so it's sort of going, yes, I can perform this, yes, I can give this energy, yes, I can give this emotion, but I'm not ready right now to break this down and make it what I want it to be, where it's like that forever. Yeah. And I think that's sort of the difference for me when deciding when to produce a song. Yeah. So the one that I recently got produced, which I'm saying is the most intimate one I've done so far, that felt right to produce because I was in a space where I could give it that emotion and that sensibility that it needed, but I wouldn't release that right now because it's not, I think, appropriate for where I'm at as an artist right now. Yeah. So there's also different ways to look at it. And it's not something that I sit down and I go, all right, this is my mind map, this is my chart, this is what I'm going to do. But it's sort of just almost like that gut feeling where I'm like, yes, I can capture a point of me at a certain time, but it's not something that I need to bring out right now because I'm still needing to get to a different point and let myself have that. Yeah. But in short, I've just blabbled again. I think, it comes to performance can have all of that song ready, but I need to be ready to be able to break it down into its core before getting into the studio. Yeah. I also think it's that thing where as an artist, surely you need like a level of separation between how you actually feel about the song to like actually putting it out to the world. Because it's like, if you just like put it out and you don't feel closure from what you've written about, what you've been vulnerable about, like that would probably have like an immense effect on you because it's like you haven't even come to terms with the emotions that you've just talked about in a song that you're releasing to like everyone. So it's like, surely you need to give yourself that kind of buffer period. Yeah, and I think that even if I'm not at this point where I can go, I've come to terms with that, I at least can be proud of that, no matter whether it's good or bad, because I think that that's a big thing for me with writing. I'm not writing these songs about things that are quite intense to be like, look at this, so sad, let's be sad together. It's going, this is real, this is what really happens, but this is something that we can sing about and go, this is life and it's beautiful for what it makes us and what it breaks us and everything it does. And I think that that's something as an artist I really want to be clear on with myself and what I represent. It's not that I think everything's bad and let's write sad songs about it. It's things will challenge you in different ways, but you can take whatever happens and create something beautiful out of it, whether that's music, whether that's art, whether that's business, whatever it is. You can take whatever you have and create it into something that you want. Yeah. I think what kind of your uniqueness as an artist is like you definitely deal with certain themes around like tumultuous relationships in music in a way that's like it is dark, but you do it in a kind of non-confrontational way for a listener. Kind of like what we were saying about like, you know, don't be a vulnerable overloader of just like, blah. And I think it like, do you feel like you had to learn how to write like that? Or did you feel like you've always just been able to write in a really kind of, I guess it's somewhat passive and not too
on the nose with what you're trying to say, but you're also delving into topics that are really dark? Like, where did you find that balance?
I think that it definitely was something that came to me naturally, but it almost, and this is what I say to myself as not just an artist, but as a person, but I use this igloo analogy, and I'm going to sound really weird as I say this, so bear with me. Tell me about the igloo. So when I process something or something happens, I was growing up feeling, I could feel very disassociated from it. But then I found a way to sort of compartmentalize things, going, I'm here, I'm safe, but there's a situation hidden in a little igloo far away, and I can choose when I come to it. Do I look inside? Do I not look inside? Am I inside when I'm looking at it? And am I outside? And why I say that, it's because when I write, I feel like I'm almost doing that. There's a situation I'm writing about, and it's stuck in an igloo. And sometimes my songs will have the perspective that I'm literally inside that igloo, living whatever's happening. Sometimes I'm a mile away and completely separated from it. And that's when a song can feel like there's a lot of distance and a lot of eeriness to it. And sometimes I'm just peering in and going, okay, what's happened? And I think Wanted More is a song where I'm quite far from an igloo, and I'm taking a couple of steps back, a couple of steps forward, a couple of steps back, this uncertainty. The song that I recently produced is one where I'm dead set in that space. It's cold, it's hot, it's chaotic. Then there's other songs where I'm sort of looking in and playing it safe, going, okay, how do I approach this? And no matter what perspective I'm taking, there's always a sense where I'm writing that it is more of a storytelling. It's more of a narration. And automatically when you have that, there is this sense of, I guess, versatility with the song where it can be digestible to a lot of people, because I think everyone's perspective of things is different. And if you're not straight in that igloo where it's, you know, tight, it's cramped, there's only sort of one-way vision, and you can put it in a space where it's outside, everyone will have different sides of an igloo to look at.
Yeah.
And that's sort of how I will approach it. And I hope that makes sense.
No,
it's a
it
very
does.
weird thing.
If anything, it makes more sense now to me, like when it would feel right to release a song, because I feel like for you, that's kind of your visual representation of like when you feel ready to put out a song. Yeah. Like when you're not dead set in the igloo.
It's definitely my igloo analogy.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
No, I haven't really thought about it like in that kind of way, but it's interesting because I think every artist obviously has their own kind of analogy for the intricacies of what they do and all that kind of fun stuff. But do you feel like has there, like with a lot of your songs, do you feel like there's been points where maybe the reason you're not putting it out is because you can never leave the igloo? Like, it's like you're always just like, when you come back to it, you try working on it more, you're like, I just can't remove myself from the chaos of this song and the emotions that I am feeling about it and everything.
100%. And that's also something, once you're in that igloo, we'll keep to this, it can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing, but overall you're still in it. So I think that there's a point where you are writing where there has, like you said, there has to be some sort of separation, so you can look at it. And I think without separation, I think it's also hard to handle what other people have to say, because if you're still in that moment where everything is so fragile about this song, if someone just innocently goes, oh, that's a cool song, but I don't really like this lyric, that could absolutely break you. That can go, but I worked so hard on this lyric, I love this lyric. Yeah. And if you don't actually have that separation where you go, this is my work, but everyone's going to have a different perspective on it. People might like it, people might not like it, but at least I'm okay with that and I accept that. I think you need to be out of that chaos to be able to look and go, no matter what happens, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I definitely worry sometimes, like, because I mean, I totally understand what it's like to write a song and be like, if anyone was to say anything about this, I might physically hurt them. But I'm also really dramatic, so I don't know. Yeah. But no, when I say that, I am being melodramatic. But it is that thing of like, it would be like someone coming into a therapy session and being like, shut the hell up, like, you need to chill. And that's literally what it can feel like for an artist, for someone to come in and just completely demolish, even if it's just one lyric.
Yeah.
And to just completely minimize the thing that you've just written and putting your heart on. Yeah. And I think that you're so right in the sense that you kind of are responsible for not feeling like that when you put it out, because you're right, people are going to have different perspectives.
Yeah.
They're going to like some things, they're going to not like other things. And especially in your position now, it's like as you grow, you're going to have people review your work, you're going to have people who critique certain things about it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you as an artist want that kind of critique and review, because not only does that help you grow, but that also will grow in the kind of like numbers sense, but it also helps you grow in just like you as an artist and improving your art.
Yeah.
Do you find, like, okay, so you're aware of the fact that you have to, like, have that separation?
Yeah.
Do you find that you struggle in circumstances with critiques even if you have given that buffer?
I feel like I used to not be as good as I am at it now, and it's something that I'm still working on, but what I'm trying to practice more is going, yes, I can accept what I've put out there, I'm proud of it, and if someone doesn't like it and they go, okay, this is why I don't like it, I can go, that's a really interesting point, let me listen back to that. Do I agree? Do I not agree? If I agree, sweet, let's look at what I can do to get better at that. If I don't agree, I can go, thank you so much for saying that, I personally really like this, but I completely hear what you are saying. And I think I'm trying to find a way to say this, I think that for me, it's almost like if I was performing to 2,000 people who I had no idea they were, I could have a vocal crack, I could fall on stage, and I'd be like, this is fine, this is so fine. But if I was performing to 3 people who were so close to me and who I really valued their opinion on a personal sense, that's when I'd get really nervous, I feel like.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think that I still am working on, being able to go, I am doing the best that I can. If someone who I'm really close to says something about it, it's okay. I'm not disappointing anyone. They don't hate it. It's just them going, maybe this. And I'm also allowed in saying that to go, I love you, but I don't agree with that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think, and I've definitely seen it, it's that fine line of like, you review someone, but you also have to keep in mind that, you know, you guys work your butts off, and that is something to definitely always keep in mind when you review music or review anything, whatever it, food or I don't know, like an artwork that's, you know, a painting or whatever. It's like you always have to, you know, being on the other side of it, you always have to keep in mind that you need to respect the fact of the effort that is being put in. And I think it is that difference of like criticism that is actually constructive and then criticism that's just like full-blown like bashing someone.
Yeah.
And I think in the world of like mainstream music and like the kind of like real nastiness of critics and like how messed up it can get, and like it almost has taken a turn from my perspective anyway. I don't know if you've noticed this, where obviously, yes, these people critique music because they know what they're talking about, but I also think the other end of it is like they know that they can like make money off like saying really like crazy messed up shit, because they know that people don't want to read about nice reviews. They want to read about the
saucy,
juicy, juicy, who are they dating, who, you know, whatever. And I just think we've really gotten to a place where we're kind of like moving away from like just celebrating music and like actually just enjoying it for what it is. And like I love reviewing music, but I also want to always keep in mind that like I don't want to lose that connection of like empathizing with the fact of how much work you guys put in, because it's very easy for me to just like talk about how I feel about a piece of art that you make, but I think it would be very easy to like forget the effort that you guys put in, and it's about maintaining that, I guess. Do you, like, when you think about your future and music, do you ever have moments of like a bit of fear when it comes to those kinds of reviews or critiques?
I think that I can't speak for Sarah in how many ever years' time with that, but I feel like where I'm at right now, I think that I have quite good separation with it because everything for me comes off intention. If, for example, you're reviewing one of my songs, your intention is not to be destructive, it's to be constructive. So no matter what you say I'm going, there's great intention behind this. No matter if you like something or you didn't like something, while someone that's reviewing it, just bashing on it for the sake of bashing on it, their intentions are just being destructive. So I can go, that's fine, but I know what those intentions are behind it, so it's easier for me to separate that. So it's something that I'm really aware of happening, but it's something that I'm also prepared for. And as much as I am quite intimate in what I write about, I think that I do make a very conscious effort to be quite private with even my social media and my accounts from a very early stage, just because I don't want all of my personal sort of stuff being out there for anything. And I think that it's something that I really love, being able to have that intimacy with music, but also going, I'm a person too, and there's things that I'm going to keep private, because if you don't know anything about my dating life, you can't really talk about my dating life. So,
exactly. And I think always learn from the people that came before you. And I think when you look at the artists that we grew up with and what they went through, and the kind of way that tabloids would function, and obviously now we're kind of moving into new mediums like TikTok and all that, like really kind of like fast moving, like, you know, kind of dark humor is kind of taking over, and people have no boundary with what you can joke about now, and it's just all that kind of, you know, dark stuff. But I think, you know, learn from the artists that came before you, in the sense of, like, you know, the ones that, you know, obviously sometimes you don't really have a choice in what you share, because you're kind of put in a position where it's like you're kind of forced to share your personal life, which is such like a hard, like, you know, people say, well, you decided to become famous, so you deserve it, kind of thing. But it's like, I think there's also limit, you know, not every person who decided to be in the spotlight chooses for certain things to come to light. And I think, you know, as I literally stalk every artist that obviously I, you know, get to interview, review. I'm a bit of a stalker in that sense, but I do always look at your social medias, and I kind of like take a look of like, how is this person like portraying themselves online? Do they feel this pressure to like share everything and post a story every day? Or do they take the time to step away from social media? And I certainly notice you as one of those people who's very willing to kind of like, you know, if you're coming up to a release, obviously you're going to promote it. You're coming up to a live show, you're going to promote it. But it's also very noticeable for me anyway. I don't think this is noticeable for just like the everyday Instagram user, where it's like you will take those moments to like step back. You're not going to like share everything. You don't have to be active all the time. And I think having that balance of not using your social media as a personal account, because it isn't a personal account.
It isn't,
And it's just, and if you want to have a personal account, great, open a private account and have that as your personal account. But I think really making the like conscious effort of being like, this is work. This is not me telling everyone about the thing that I'm going through today, or I don't need to post a story every time I like even when you have like a musical thought and you're like, I need to post a story about this. Like, it's like, you can have producing sessions that are just for you and not for the people that follow you, because it's like, this is still your personal life in a way. Even though you're sharing it, it's still personal to you.
Definitely, yeah.
So when you say like, did you really feel like you made that conscious decision from the start of like doing social media, that it was like, this is work. This is not me putting my personal life online. And so obviously you got to sacrifice a bit of your personal life. But was it a conscious decision from the start?
It definitely was, and I feel like I opened myself my own private account because I got to the point where I wanted to balance out feeling like that's my business account, but also, you know, being able to put up my own personal stuff in little squares and be really cute and all of that. And I think that at the start of maybe 3-4 years ago, I wasn't doing that, and I felt like there was a lot of people around me that took one thing I did and could create 6 different things about it. And I started to notice that, and not just with me, but with other artists and other people, and coming in as like an 18, 19-year-old in uni and seeing how fast something could change and be taken. And I think that's when I went, you can listen to my music, I will put it out there, I'll be as authentic as I can, but I also need to almost protect my heart and myself in a way.
Yeah.
You know, there's things that I'm also gonna be authentic with, but I don't need to overshare who I am. I don't need to overdo what I'm putting out, because there's days where I don't want to go on my phone. There's days where, not that I don't want to do music, not that I don't want to share if there's something exciting, but just because I'm human as well and have days where things are off. There's days where I'm so busy where I've woken up and all of a sudden I'm back in bed because the day goes so fast. And I think that it is a very big conscious effort for me to go, this is my business account, and I'm so lucky because my business account is something that I can be so personal on, but isn't something that has to display everything, because I don't have to. I don't have to, and I can let that journey happen as it does, and it makes it even more special being able to have these things with you and be able to talk and get personal, not just on podcasts, but as you as a friend, and being able to talk and connect, because then those authentic connections happen not just from social media. They extend further from that, and I think a lot of people forget that and just assume they know who you are because of what you put out, rather than actually sitting down and going, so what's up? What did you do over the week? And what makes you happy now? Not what makes you happy 2 years ago when I stalked your account and I saw this photo here and it looked like this made you really happy. So I'm just really big on being able to have those authentic connections with people face to face, but also know how important social media is. And it's something that I don't think I'll ever be perfect at. I'm very big on the idea of, I think anyone that says they know everything doesn't know everything, because no one ever knows anything.
Well, and I think when it comes to social media, especially for artists, because it is that, I mean, I've talked about this before with people, it's like, you have to kind of make a deal with the devil of like, I would say 99% of the time, most artists are like, I fucking hate social media.
Yeah.
But I need to use it for what I'm doing, especially in the age now where it's like, everyone can write a song and put it on the internet, and apparently that's just like the way that the world works. Like, it's not like you get discovered by a record label and you work with a label,
put
and
in your CDs.
Yeah, you put in the CDs and like all that kind of, like that real old school way of like music is kind of dying. And like, I mean, it still exists. I think this idea that record labels are like no longer a massive thing, I think people are kind of like a bit in over their heads about that. Like, record labels are fucking huge. They're not going anywhere right now. But in saying that, I think independent artists and the way that you can literally upload a song and share it with all your followers just like that is so underestimated. And I think, yes, it's so frustrating that it's like you have to use this platform and build a following, but what it gives you in the end, I'm sure, is like one of the greatest gifts ever, because you get to share your music with all these people. They get to come to your shows. Like, I can't even imagine what is that feeling like when it's like a show sells out that you've like promoted for yourself. Like, that must feel insane. It
does, and it just, like I said about those moments I was speaking about before that kind of stand out and go, yes, this is right. It honestly means the world when those things happen, because it makes me feel like, yes, I can do this. This is what I can do, and everything that I am trying to represent for myself and for other people, this is right. And I was going to say as well before, when we were talking about social media, it's like a double-sided coin. I think it's also beautiful now because people are able to connect to people on social media and live shows and be able to see who they are as an artist. And I think people love music, but also people want to love the person that's writing the music, and it's also being as authentic as you can. If you're the type of artist that will post every couple of days but not a story every day, people will love that because it's authentic. But it could also be authentic for you to be like, I'm having sushi, you need to see that I'm eating this sushi. And
You're
that's
right.
okay too.
You're right. It can, I guess, yeah, that level of authenticity works for different types of people. It's like some people are just naturally oversharers, and
and that's so fun.
Yeah, and it doesn't, people don't really question their way of posting online because it's like, it just makes sense for them.
Exactly.
But yeah, I do think it's you as an artist individually have to discover like what works for you and what, you know, what works. But I guess going back to your music, I felt like when I listened to your music for the first time, I was getting like real like angsty pop vibes. I don't know if that's what you think of your own music, but now looking back, I'm like, maybe angsty is slightly too naive. Like I think to think that your music is just like this angsty sound is possibly kind of making it seem more childlike than what it actually is. Because then I think when I saw it live, I was like, oh no, like there are more like adult themes in this that kind of goes beyond just like angsty pop.
Yeah.
Because I think when it's like, especially when I hear a song like Wanted More, I guess I kind of draw similarities from like someone like Taylor Swift, where it's like talking about love and relationships, but then you kind of move into another like sector of like just slightly more dark, and not just like, you talk about love and relationships, but it just kind of goes down that like different road of just like, but it's just slightly darker than that. It's not just a love and relationship, it's just slightly darker. Like, do you see your sound always going for that kind of just slightly more unsettling tone than just the kind of like, I don't know. It's not, think for you, it's not just about love that you write about. It just feels slightly more tumultuous than that. And I guess anyone could say that their love life is tumultuous for whatever reason. But yeah, I don't know. Do you see yourself always being slightly darker when you talk about relationships?
I think that, trying to find the best way to word it, I think that it always will take a turn, but depending on the listener and depending on myself will be whether it's taken as darker or angsty or you know. And I think that that's what I love and what I want to do with my music. It's sort of it's something that you can listen to and something that is digestible, but depending on who's listening will be whether they go, oh, that sounds great, no other thoughts, or oh, that sounds great, but it also feels kind of dark, or oh, that feels great, but it feels kind of eerie, like Can't Hardly Lie. Some of my friends that listen to it, that pre-chorus of follow me, follow me, follow me, follow me home, people are like, oh, yeah, follow me home. Yeah, that's such a good melody. And other people are like,
fuck.
Oh, or like it's kind of like,
because it does feel, and especially when you do that one live, it's like, because the drums are like coming, it's like, follow me. And it's like that slow build up, and then it's like, boom.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And I think that that's something that I really wanted, because I wanted, you know, I wanted my music to be able to have that edge to it. That's definitely something that is taken based off someone else's perspective of who they are and what they're doing. And I think that's something that my music will always have, because like there's an I keep talking about these songs. There's songs coming. There's another song that I did, which I originally thought was going to be this slow, you know, sort of like darker ballad, but I've decided to take it into something that's really upbeat, and it's great. And it has that feeling of liveliness, but then it's got that slight angst or slight darkness, because you're singing it and you're going, ooh, okay, this is what I'm singing about. This is happening. And like, for example, like I'll share a bit of that song. The lyrics for those ones, the last line is, I'm sick of feeling used. I'm sick of not being sick of you. So there's that sense of, you know, any song could be like, I'm sick of this, I'm sick of that. But then there's that turn of, well, I'm actually not sick of you. And then that goes, oh, okay, maybe I'm kind of stuck in this. Oh, maybe there's something that I need to figure out with myself first. And
Yeah.
that's what I've always wanted. I've always wanted a sort of a couple of layers to peel off, and you can peel off so many layers with what I write about, but some people will peel off 2 layers, some people will peel off 4, and some people won't peel off anything because they're so happy just listening to a melody and singing it.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
No, it does. I actually feel like, as you were speaking about it, I feel like the reason why when I first listened to music that I was like, oh, this is just kind of like angsty pop, and I kind of just like, because I think it is easy to like, once you hear a song or a couple songs, you kind of like put it in a pigeonhole and that's where it stays. But I think it really developed as I went through my own life experience, and then I started to hear your music through a different lens to what I did when I first heard it, because I hadn't gone through certain things to then when I heard it. And I guess I like have never really thought about music being able to kind of like shift like that. I mean, I guess maybe other people have experienced that, but I just don't think that I have like noticed that necessarily with like maybe artists that I've, you know, been able to review or interview. Like, I think maybe because I listened to you, I, you know, heard you during lockdown, that was like a specific period of time. And then because I've like now known you for a bit longer, it's like I'm listening to you, I'm revisiting you again after a certain period of time, and I've gone through certain things, and so now I'm hearing it as less angsty and kind of a bit more adult themed. Like, it's like, not only did I grow, but I grew through like being able to see the songs in a different way, and kind of stripping away that kind of naivety that maybe I had when I first listened to them, which is like
a lot that you've connected to it like that as well. Like, hearing that, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I always try and, you know, I never want to just come with you with like a compliment, because I can just sit here and say, yeah, it was a great song. But I really do try and come with a bit more personal perspective about it, because it does, I think, you know, I want to bring that level of personableness to it, because it is true. Like, I do feel that when I first listened to it, it felt a bit just more like of an angsty sound, and I wasn't maybe as connected to it. But then I think once you experience certain things, it's like, holy shit, like I feel like I actually connect with what they're truly saying. But in the same token, I do think that sometimes in life you need passive listeners who just who will enjoy your music whether you're talking about really fucked up shit or really normal shit. Like,
exactly.
They're like, oh, I just love the sound of her voice. It's like, okay. Like,
and I love that. And that's the thing. It's so...
Yeah.
It's what I want. It's sort of personal choice. It's that wild card where you go, okay, 1 layer in.
Yeah.
Maybe let's listen to it again. Oh, I've suddenly gone to the 5th layer and now I'm feeling this.
Yeah.
I want to create music like that. I want to create music that can have that sense of timelessness when, no matter what stage you're at. And that's something that I always want to have. And I guess that, especially coming into new music that I've got coming out this year and things like that, it's sort of finding a way to really have that happen. And I'm really, really excited for that.
Yeah. And I would be interested to see like how you grow in terms of your live performance stuff, because I think that you, right now, you definitely are very nice for the audience, because you do give them a lot of like an upbeat like connection for them. Like, you keep things light enough that keeps people feeling like they can dance and like be happy and enjoy it. Do you see yourself being able to get to a point where you kind of let yourself just be a bit more like bleak on stage? Because I know that that's obviously like a bit more nerve-wracking in the sense that, yes, there's a level of vulnerability that you have to do there, but it does also put you at the risk of like maybe the audience can't keep connecting with you because it's like, oh, this is just too like sad or dark and I don't want to smile to this or dance to this, blah blah blah. Like, do you feel yourself that you can let yourself get to that place, or do you still want to be in the kind of like, I just want to give people a good night, a good show?
I think that I want to get to the point with my music where I give people something that's memorable, and that's something that's so big for me, especially like you were saying, how artists can just release music like no other. There's live music everywhere now, which is so awesome to see. But you know, what separates one show from another show, what's different? And I spend a lot of time with my sets trying to take people on a journey where you know, I might not put my most upbeat song first because I need to get through a couple of ballads. I start off strong and then I keep going, and I want to always create that journey. For example, the show that I've got coming up for Wanted More, the headliner, there's a violinist that I'm bringing on stage for that, which I'm really excited for. But that was really important for me to choose like a particular point to have that, because that also gives another feeling. And I guess, you know, I really want to get to that point where there is that sense of I'm pulled back now. There's maybe a little bit more bleakness, but it's not disengaging. It's still engaging, and that's going to come from my authenticity, from my performance, from my betrayal of my songs. And like I said, not singing a song because this is really sad and I'm singing about it, but this is real, and let me connect to every single person on stage about this. And that's really what I want to do, and something that I'm definitely still learning to do, and finding different ways to portray my music. And especially for this show coming up, I spend a lot of time, I make sure there's always new songs in my sets, always new songs. So I think there's like a third of it, just maybe more, is new songs for this one coming up, so which is exciting.
Wow.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I'm like, yep. And new covers, and I think that's gonna let me sort of see the waters. And having a violinist come in on this show as well is really exciting, because I always want to give like an extra layer, and other things are going to be engaging for the audience. So the violinist, that song's quite slow and intense, and it's a build up, but there's things that are happening for, hopefully. Yeah. We'll see. Hopefully people to get engaged with.
I also think that elevates the sound design of the performance, because like obviously now, you know, competing with so much new music, competing with so many new artists, and like that is a lot to kind of like make yourself stand out from the crowd. And I think kind of playing with sound design and how you can make a performance like unique by changing up and bringing in a violinist for a performance. Like I think really having that willingness to experiment with your sound and your set list, even to like change that much of your set list, you know, is amazing. I can imagine it's fucking lot of work. Especially because I do see that you do a lot of live performances, whether they're like bigger shows or smaller shows. Like you do really friggin' grind your ass off to like play live music, whether it's again big or small, and to be able to really still experiment, and not to just fall into the pattern of being like, well, because I'm performing so much, I'm just going to do the same shit, because I don't have the friggin' energy to like come up with a new set list and a new theme or journey or blah, blah, blah. Like, I think that shows a lot of work ethic, that you're willing to like literally change it up and not just do the same thing because you know it, you know, quote unquote works. I mean, I reckon that I feel like you can go darker when you perform live. I feel like you still play it a bit safe.
I think I do. I think I do agree with that. And I think it's also, like I was saying before about my band, for example, coming in and being like, I know what I want. But I need to be confident enough that you know what I want, and hold that. I think I definitely still want to get to that point with my live performance where I walk in there and I'm like, I'm going to play this and you might not like it. But that's okay, because I'm giving it the best I got. And on the note about like the new songs and things like that, it's also I'm so grateful for my band for that, because the poor guys, when they're like, yep, I know these songs, and I'm like, sweet, here's 3 more that we're going to go through.
Sorry.
And they're so good about it. They're so good about it. And I'm getting all these new songs happening, but they also are learning it at the same time. They're putting in that work to learn those new songs, and they're putting in the work to know these new sets and different variations of sets. And there's 2 songs that we performed, so Chasing Black and This Won't Hurt, which are both out. And usually I didn't even notice I did this. The band pointed this out. I think that I put maybe This Won't Hurt always before Chasing Black, and then I did them like the other way, and the band even noticed that. They were like,
interesting.
Ooh. And I was like, oh, we're looking into it that deeply. I loved that. I was like, yep.
What change did that feel when you performed that? Like,
I think that for me, switching up certain songs like that finally is because of the songs that come before and after that and the journey that needs to happen for that. So I think, for example, like Chasing Black, that's very much more of a, you're moving, it takes a lot to take off a couple of layers. This Won't Hurt's a bit more drivey, so that might come later on, and that for me, I put them in the sets in a particular order based on that sort of upward journey, and sometimes they'll have to swap, sometimes they'll be in different spots, but the band noticed that, which was really interesting. So
well, I guess that shows how connected they are to you and your music. Like the fact that they would even, I mean, obviously I shouldn't, condescend too much. Of course they should notice these things. They know what they're doing. But I think that they're aware of the emotional impact that is for you when you perform is quite powerful, that they feel that connected, that they know that would have an effect on you performing those songs in a different order.
Yeah.
And what that could mean. And I think this is so interesting because I don't think that people, when they come and see live music, necessarily have in mind, like, yes, they know that set lists exist and they're a thing, but I think that you as an audience member just kind of get lost in it thinking like, oh yeah, they're just playing some songs,
And that's also okay because...
Which is totally fine. But I think I am a bit of a snob for how people decide what songs go where, because I think for me, I like people when they're deliberate. I think it's one of the most important things with live music is being really deliberate about what you're singing, why you're singing it, how you're singing it. And it's not just this like completely passive act that you're doing, because you need to put on a show ultimately. And like I said, I think you can go darker, and I think honestly maybe wear more leather. I wore leather for that last show at the Vanguard, and I'm gonna be very honest, I was sweating. I know, but it's so good. It's so good. And then I walked off stage and I was like, fuck, it's so hot. I know, but I love the leather. Well, I hope that the outfit I have in a couple of days will do justice. I mean, all black works for me too, but I like the leather. It stands out, the red hair. I love it. Well, and of course the red hair, which is like a signature Sarah hair now. I can't imagine you with not having red hair. About 4 years ago, I had my natural brown hair, and I feel like everyone's just forgotten that I forgot. That I've had brown hair. Who is she? No one knows. I have little siblings, like a 3-year-old brother, and he's convinced that I came out of the womb with red hair. He just hasn't seen me with any other hair colour. My 3-year-old brother just knows that I have red hair, and that's it. I mean, it suits... I feel like it's also one of those things where it suits your stage presence. It suits the aesthetic of you as an artist, the person I see on Instagram. I'm like, Sarah with the red hair, like that is her. Like I mean, obviously you're always going to play with your look. In 5 years time, you could look friggin' completely different. Yeah. But I think right now in the period of music that you're doing, it's like the theme that you're on, it works. Yeah. It's the vibe. I can do that. It's the vibe. I like the vibe. Yeah. Well, it's been lovely chatting with you. Thank you. And thank you so much for taking the time to chat to me and be here with me. No, I love it. And I love talking about your music. And I'm so excited to see where you go next. Thank you.